Let's take a closer look at how this affects children. I'm joined by Anuradha Narayan, who is a nutrition advisor with UNICEF, and she's speaking to us from New York. Anuradha, thank you so much for your time. When we talk about wars, it's often children we talk about who bear the brunt of the conflict, not just when it's happening, but also in the future. And at the moment, there are several conflicts around the world. Just talk us through which countries are most at risk right now.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having us and giving us a chance to sort of share the findings of the report. So in 2024, I think in this report, we found that there were nutrition crises were detected in 26 of the 53 countries that were included in the report. And while the total numbers, as you reported, there are 38 million children who faced acute malnutrition, 10 million of them faced the most life-threatening form of severe wasting. The countries at risk, which have the highest proportion of children who faced risk, included Sudan, Yemen, Mali, and the Gaza Strip in Palestine, as your reports also recently showed. In Sudan, famine has been declared, and in Yemen and Mali, there are areas which are classified as extremely critical, and the entire Gaza Strip has been identified as at a high risk of famine. There are also a few countries where we see a high number of children, the largest number of children who are at risk, and that includes Nigeria with 5.4 million children at risk, followed by the Democratic Republic of Congo, Afghanistan, Ethiopia, Yemen, and Pakistan. So these are all the places where we are extremely concerned about the health of children.
Anuradha, could you explain to us, when you mentioned Gaza being at risk of famine, but then there are other areas that are already experiencing that famine. What is the difference between a country that's on the brink of famine and one that's already experiencing it?
Yeah, so we use several parameters to sort of identify both risk and to declare famine conditions in places. That includes an understanding of how many people are facing hunger. We try to take a look at how many of those, in those places, how many children are acutely malnourished with severe malnutrition, and how many of them are at risk of mortality. And for all of those parameters, if you meet or exceed certain thresholds, then there is a declaration of famine. Now, I think waiting or even talking about a famine declaration, as we have done in Sudan, is a step too far. I mean, we keep warning about things for many, many months ahead of time, because you can anticipate that in certain parts of the country where there might be high levels of displacement or where may be services at risk for children, you are increasingly seeing children who are severely malnourished showing up to clinics for treatment. And we can already warn that things are getting worse. And that's where we talk about the risk of famine being very high. And we actually provide a projected period when the risk can be very, very high, when actually we can do things to sort of reduce that risk. But in Sudan, for example, this year, we found that all those thresholds had been exceeded, and hence a famine was declared.
And it's absolutely heartbreaking and devastating to see those images of children who are clearly malnourished, who are not getting enough food. And that could potentially get even worse this year with the Global Network Against Food Crises saying this will be the biggest drop in humanitarian funding for food. That impact, I imagine, is going to be catastrophic. What's the message that UNICEF wants to send about how a funding shortage is going to impact children in particular?
Yeah, so we are anticipating that something like about 15 million children are at risk as a result of significant funding cuts. But our main message is the following. I think the first is that severe acute malnutrition can be treated. Children don't need to die. We have the tools, we know what to do it. What to do, we have expertise. But what we need is political commitment and sort of obviously financing. But also, I think where we want to send a stronger message is that we shouldn't have to wait can prevent children from becoming wasted in the first place. And that remains our fundamental message. So what do we do to act early? How do we come together in ways in which that we can actually both reduce conflict, have humanitarian access so that services can be provided. And I think the last thing we are trying to say is we continue to need to sort of provide information. Data must lead to action, and that remains fundamental. We are also looking for a rebalancing of resources that are not just about life saving, even if we do that, but we continue to be able to invest in livelihood actions. And then really having more localized, tailored approaches that can look at community risks and can engage local and national actors in their own efforts to address child malnutrition.
Thank you so much, Anuradha Narayan there from UNICEF, for breaking that all down for us. Really appreciate it.